Welcome back to the Coming Out Happy podcast. We are your hosts, Danny and Keely, and we are so glad that you're here. Welcome back to the show. Coming Out Happy podcast is all about being LGBTQ+, dating struggles, and so much more.
If you like what you hear, make sure you leave us a 5-star review and rating. We can't wait to hear from you. And as always, welcome back to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. It's Keely here, and I am super excited that you're back, that we're here together. I've just been really excited and feeling a lot of love this week. I know Danny and I both have talked about it. As so many of you that have been listening to this podcast, whether you started 6 months ago when we started it or you've just recently been listening to it, you've been reaching out to us, and it's made our hearts so full and happy to have these beautiful conversations with you guys and truly just get to know you on a deeper level and how we can better support you. It's really been amazing, and sometimes I forget, that so many people really do listen to our podcasts and know a lot about our lives, and it's amazing that we've connected on such a deep level, whether you resonate with me or you've resonated with stuff that Danny said, and you understand, you feel it, and you feel a connection to us, and that is the most beautiful thing that really makes our hearts so full. So I just wanted to say, if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, we really, really appreciate you guys, and just want you to know that we're always here for you no matter what. And so if you ever have any questions at all, please send us a DM at Coming Out Happy on Instagram. And then we're also always posting on TikTok at Coming Out Happy Team. So there's lots of ways to get connected with us. But before we get into today's episode, we do have some really exciting news. For the last few months, Danny and I have been working so hard on our signature program, where we're putting together everything we know from self-acceptance to self-love and truly creating healthy relationships. This is the full package to really take your life to the next level and really begin to accept who you are so that you can live freely on your own terms. Stop caring what other people think and just live for you. That is so beautiful. So that's releasing very, very soon. If you're listening to this now on a Friday where it just has been released, I think tomorrow is going to be, what date's tomorrow, Danny?
I'm not sure.
Tomorrow is the 22nd. So January 22nd, we will be releasing this on February 8th. It will be open. And we're so excited for this to come to life. We haven't announced the name yet, so if you're following on Instagram, stay up to date with all of the things that we'll be posting in the next couple weeks, because we're going to be doing some really exciting things about that. Without further ado, I thought we'd get into today's topic. Dan, what's today's topic?
Self-love is not selfish.
Yeah, no, that one really was confusing to me at first, because as someone that came from a religious background, I don't know if what you guys know about being in the Christian faith and religion, but usually it's God first, others second, and you last. And it's this I'm third lifestyle. And that's all I really knew growing up, is that, I just got to make everyone else happy. I got to do for other people. It's never really about me. And so I kind of grew up with this mentality that it wasn't really that important to focus on myself. And I think that's where I went wrong. It really was hard for me when I started to focus on myself, because I felt guilty. How many of you feel guilty for taking time for yourself? Whether you've felt that way your entire life, or maybe you have kids and a family and you're afraid to take that time for yourself because you're like, I feel like it's selfish. Well, something that I've realized over the last couple of years is that taking time for yourself and really investing in yourself isn't selfish. And I say that to say, you can't be the person that you're supposed to be. You can't give everything to other people if you don't ever fill yourself up and you never take that time. I struggled for a really, really long time with who I was and what my purpose was supposed to be and everything, because I never took that time. But once I started taking that time, it started to develop that I was supposed to be doing more with my life, that I quit my job, that I started helping people, that I was able to explore my sexuality, that I was able to embrace it. and it led me here. And so I realized through that process and that transformation that my life would have never transitioned, it would have never transformed into what it is today if I never started looking inward, if I never started taking time alone, if I never started working on myself. And it just made me believe that how could it be selfish? And so I think we hold on to these beliefs, right, that it is selfish for so long. And after we start discovering that I think it's really good for us, which you'll start to see if you've been working on yourself, or if you haven't yet and you're going to start, you'll see what comes to life from you actually taking that time for yourself. And so it's really changed my life. And I just wanted to make it really clear that it's not selfish, because I think we hold on to it and then we never take time for ourselves. Danny, I want to ask you, what has the process been for you? Did you ever feel like self-love was selfish? I know you came from, and this is a little background for our listeners, you came from a totally different background where your family was more spiritual. Your family was more in tune with how they wanted to focus on themselves. That was a really important thing for you growing up. So what was that like for you?
So I didn't ever believe that it was selfish. I just didn't even know what that really looked like or what that really meant. To look within, to help yourself, to want to grow into someone who's better than you currently are. But my mom, I don't know if anyone who's listening knows, but she is a motivational speaker. She's an author and she's a coach. And she is by far one of the greatest women and speakers that I know. But something that I've learned from her is that you can't fill, I think she just said, I forgot what exactly it is, but it's you can't pour into, a cup without yourself having stuff to give. If you are not filled with love, you're not going to be able to either help or love people in the way that you may want to. It's not to say that you can't love other people, but the way that you love people is completely different. The way you care about people is completely different. One side is insecure and it's caring what others think, and you may do certain things because you may not love who you are yet. And self-love is an interesting concept, because it's not about rainbows and bubble baths and all those things that a lot of people talk about. It's dedicating to yourself. It's investing in yourself. It's doing the things that make you uncomfortable because you want to be better for yourself and the people around you. And throughout my life, I needed to understand what that looked like. Not because I wanted to take more bubble baths or I wanted to just read a book or anything like that, but I knew it was going to help my life in so many different ways. It was going to help myself be able to become the person that I want to be. It's going to help the people around me. I'm going to have better relationships. I'm going to have better friendships. I'm going to have a better life in general. And that's something that self-love did for me, is when I started to look within and understand that I deserved to have a great life. And that was something that I needed to learn over time. But, through various practices and through a lot of time, I figured out how to do it. And that's something that Keely and I are pouring into our signature program. It's how to do it in the way that we know how to do it, because we know the life that it can give you. Learning how to embrace who you are, even beyond your LGBTQ plus identity. Put that off to the side for a sec. You are a whole individual human being and deserve to feel so good about yourself and the life that's around you, but you can't appreciate it if you don't love yourself first. And I think that's why, we've experimented with talking about relationships and talking about all that and talking about dating. And the coolest thing is, and maybe a hard thing is to hear, is that the relationships that you're going to have when you love yourself versus when you may not yet are extremely, extremely different. And the really hard things that I have been through that I talk about on this podcast happened before I've ever put myself first. All of the really, really hard things. Not to say that, I don't have hard times now, because of course that's totally valid, but the relationships that I've had are completely changed because of how I viewed myself and my life and everything about it. And the things that we create are to help you get to a place where you don't need anyone else to make you happy, that you feel great being alone because you don't need anybody else to fill you. And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
You know?
I think you said it so beautifully when you said that, like, self-love just doesn't, it doesn't, you can just say, all right, time for self-love. Self-love comes when you put in the work. Self-love comes when you do the hard things. And that's why we created the program that we created, and how we created it, and the framework for it is that you have to accept yourself first. You have to show yourself compassion and all of these things that come first, and then comes self-love. And that is something I think a lot of people, confuse, or they just go, well, a bubble bath or a face mask, and that's self-love. But that's the surface level self-love. Real deep self-love is accepting yourself. It's sitting with uncomfortable feelings.
It's the really, really hard stuff. And all beyond that. Like, it's not just something you can read in a book or be done because you're hanging out with friends or anything like that. You're right. The surface level things are never going to be as helpful as just going through those really, really hard and uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah. You don't get self-love. You work for self-love.
Yeah.
And I think that once you get there, you realize how worth it is, and how worth it was to go through some of the hardest things and to let go of things and to move forward. Once I started accepting myself for who I was, and I stopped, and I started understanding that focusing on myself wasn't selfish, oh my gosh, my life flipped upside down. I couldn't even believe the opportunity. Stuff started coming out of the woodwork. I said this before, but it's just like so crazy how many things started to change. The people in my life, I realized there were so many people in my life I was just keeping around because I didn't value who I was as a person. And as soon as I started to understand that, I let them go, didn't I, Danny?
Mm-hmm.
I really did. And it wasn't in a mean way, like I don't want you to be a part of my life anymore. You just start to see what you're worth. And you start to understand how important you are and how important your time is, and wanting to be around people that truly lift you up and inspire you. And so that's really, really beautiful. But I think the message for today, and I know we talked about a lot of different things, is that self-love isn't selfish. To focus on yourself, to really take time to uncover and dive into who you are as a person. And if that means taking time away from some distractions, that means cutting some people off, if that means letting go of some things you've been holding on to for way too long, that's what it means. But it's not selfish. It's for you.
Yeah, and I think like the last thing I wanted to say with that is it's not selfish because of the outcomes that it brings you. It's not self-love or confidence in like a conceited way where you're just like, I love who I am, I'm the freaking best, just to be cocky. That's not what it is. Self-love is when you love yourself unconditionally and you know that you don't need anyone else because you have your back. And that's something that Keely and I are going to start talking about very, very regularly, because that is the most important piece to all of the things that we've ever created and will ever create. How important self-love is for your life, and how important it is in your life that you're currently having with your relationships with yourself, with other people, but about your future as well. Everything is based on that one piece, how you feel about yourself.
And we're not just talking about conditional love with yourself. And if you're anything like me, growing up in a certain environment or growing up in religion, you might have a very skewed view of love. That you may think it's conditional, that you have to do things to win or prove your love to people. And once you learn unconditional self-love, that begins to change as well. What you do for others, how you perceive love in your relationships, in your life, is just, oh my gosh, we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now. There's so much to uncover, so much to talk about, and it just makes me really excited. One more thing I wanted to share before we wrap up here. I know our podcasts are short and sweet, but we know that you guys are busy people. Maybe you're on your way to work, maybe you're on a walk right now, you're just taking some time, and so we just want to pack it all in with the short amount of time we have. But last night, Danny and I were at dinner, and we're sitting there and we were talking, and it was Wine Wednesday, so of course we shared a bottle of wine. They were 50% off. I mean, come on. We had to get a bottle of wine. By the way, we do drink Pinot Grigio white wine, if anyone was wondering, and it was really good. But so we're sitting there at dinner, And we look across, and just in the corner of our eye, we see this woman, and she's dancing. And she's eating her pizza, she's drinking her drink, and she's sitting there by herself, guys. And she is smiling and she is laughing, and it just made my heart want to explode. Because I saw her and I go, that's self-love. Not because she's sitting there eating her pizza, but you could tell that she was so content and happy to just be with herself. Like it was like she was her own best friend. And she would make herself laugh. Oh my gosh, I was having so much fun staring at her. I hope she didn't catch me staring at her, but that was just so beautiful, wasn't it?
It was really, really nice to see someone just like enjoying their own company. And that's what we're here to help you do. And that's always going to be the mission starting right now. I'm going to let everyone know that.
And I want you to picture that. Just picture yourself smiling, laughing, eating a pizza. I don't know if you like pizza. Eating your favorite food, having a drink, and just sitting there enjoying your own company. Now, I'm telling you, when I first started this whole self-love thing, that wasn't how it was in the beginning, but I definitely could go out for a pizza and a drink by myself. So yeah, it's really beautiful. I am so pumped. I cannot wait to share more about it. I guess next Friday will be a little bit closer to when we'll be launching this. And so I'm really excited to share the name with you, to share more about it. I really want you to stay up to date with everything that we're putting out. So go over to Instagram at Coming Out Happy. And if you like this podcast, send us a little message. Say what episode you listened to and your biggest takeaway. I want to hear from you. I love learning from you guys. Another thing that we love to ask on the stories is we love to ask what you guys want to hear about. We record our podcast the day before every single week because we want to stay up to date. We want to hear from you guys each week and hear what podcasts you like hearing about. So these are all based around you. They're for you, and we're super excited. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you like this podcast, make sure to leave a 5-star review and a little comment if you want. And then again, as always, we'll see you next week on Friday. We love you guys. We care about you so much. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And wherever you're listening to this, we just love you guys so much and appreciate you more than anything. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one, everyone.